Hi, welcome back to the linear spiral. Today's video is really cool. We're going to talk about dimensions and we're going to make them make sense. If you have watched the video titled The Linear Spiral, then you know that the expression, the linear spiral, references everything we know from the smallest thing, superstring theory, maybe quanta, subatomic particles, up to the largest thing, which is the universe, or perhaps multiverses, if there's more than one universe, and everything in between. It's all of existence, but on every level, because there's all of existence here, but then there's larger in scope and there's smaller in zoom factor. In addition to the very smallest to the very largest, we have dimensions. Dimensions of space and time, or beyond space and time. So let's start with the first dimension. The first dimension is a point. One thing we're measuring. That was easy. The second dimension is two things that we measure. And a piece of paper is a great example of the second dimension. It's a plane. It has length and width. That's the second dimension. The third dimension adds height. So we have length, width, and height in the third dimension. That's the one we live in. We can see down onto the second dimension, but those in the second dimension cannot see up to the third. They don't have that third measurement. All they have is length and width. In the 1800s, Edwin Abbot wrote a book called Flatland describing the second dimension, and people who lived there, they were shapes. And in Flatland, everyone could see only the plane that they existed in. This is not a unique idea, and in fact, I got it from Carl Sagan. He does an awesome video on the tesseract, which is linked to below in the description of this video. And the thing that I took away from that video was this amazing idea of the shadows casting into other dimensions. So I'll show you. This is a three-dimensional cube. Now I apologize, it's not a perfect cube. It's made of toothpicks and clay, and that is actually much harder to make than I expected. I am going to trace the shadow that is being cast from the third dimension onto the second dimension. And inset is another video of this where you can see it a little better. But everywhere there's a line, I will trace a line. And finally, that one. Okay. So this we can put aside for now. I will place it over here, hopefully not too in the way. And here is a shadow of a three-dimensional cube. The shadow of a three-dimensional cube as seen in the second dimension. But here's the really cool part, and this is what's great about a tesseract or a hypercube. That's what this is. This is called a hypercube or a tesseract. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I had to correct myself. I called this a tesseract or a hypercube And while you will find references to this structure as a tesseract or a hypercube, it technically is not one. It is the shadow of a hypercube or a tesseract as seen here in the third dimension, but it is not technically a tesseract, because technically a tesseract is a four-dimensional cube, and we can't witness that. We can't experience that. This is the shadow of a four-dimensional cube as seen cast here in the third dimension. I told you it was cool. Those in the second dimension can't imagine the third, just as those of us here in the third dimension can't imagine the fourth. Those in the second dimension don't know what up is. Up and down has no context there. They can't even conceive of it because there's no up and down in the second dimension. Here in the third dimension, whatever takes us to the fourth, however we can turn this three-dimensional cube into a four-dimensional cube, we don't know. We don't know how to do it. We can't do it because there's no up and down from here. Whatever the next measurement is that gives us the fourth dimension, we can't conceive of it. But this shadow of a four-dimensional cube is cast here from the fourth dimension here into the third. And this is what it looks like. So while we can't know what a four-dimensional cube looks like, we can know what the shadow of a four-dimensional cube looks like as seen here in the third dimension. To me, this indicates there is a fourth dimension. I can't see why we should stop there and say there's no fifth dimension. Just like I don't think we can stop in our zooming. There's whatever a superstring is comprised of something. Whatever it's comprised of is comprised of something. And we can keep going out in scope. So we're adding dimensionality to the linear spiral and saying existence is big. It is mind-blowing. I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for watching.